It is Friday, and so it's time for Brunch with Bernie, our national town hall meeting with the guy I think of as America's senator, although the good citizens of Vermont know he's their senator, Senator Bernie Sanders. His website, sanders.senate.gov. Bernie, welcome.
Good to be with you, Tom.
It's great to have you with us. I know that you've got a lot on your plate. You want to give us a snapshot?
Yeah, there's a whole lot that's taking place in Washington now that I think are of interest, to the listeners. Number one, let's talk about something we've talked about many times in the past, and that is the status of the Postal Service. If I'm not mistaken, on Monday night we begin debate finally on a postal bill. As you know, and as we have discussed, over the last year, the Postal Service has come up with the idea that they thought it was best for the post office to shut down 3,700 rural post offices, which I think would be devastating to rural America. They wanted to shut down initially about half of the processing plants in this country. They wanted to slow mail delivery service, which I think in this day of instantaneous communications and emails would be just taking a step toward a death spiral. They also want to eliminate Saturday mail service. And the argument for all of this is that first-class mail is going down, which it certainly is, being replaced by email. On the other hand, what I think the Postal Service has not been as strong as they might be in pointing out is that the Postal Service has been forced for a number of years now to put $5.5 billion into health benefits for their retirees, a burden that no other agency of government requires, nor does anybody in the private sector. And, in fact, with some $45 billion in that fund, they already have enough money to take care of all of their future needs. Also, what should be pointed out is the Postal Service has overpaid a variety of retirement programs, the Federal Employment Retirement Service, Civil Service Retirement Service, by some $13 billion. Point here is that the Postal Service has got to change in the digital age. Nobody argues that. But what we do argue is that in the midst of this terrible recession, it is not a good idea, A, to downsize the Postal Service by as much as a couple of 100,000 jobs. We don't need that. And B, it does not make sense if we want a strong post office in the future to slow down mail delivery. Some of us think the alternative is the post office has got to be much more aggressive and entrepreneurial, figuring out new ways they can use their extraordinarily strong infrastructure. Today, letter carriers are going to be delivering mail to 150 million doors. We have rural post offices all over this country. How can they come up with a business model which generates more revenue? And that's an issue we are working on. The bill comes to the floor, I think, on Monday night. I and some other members of the Senate have been working hard to protect the post office, to protect workers' jobs, and not to see happen what the post office originally intended. We will keep you abreast as to how successful we will be, but I think we are making progress. The Postmaster General in the last couple of months has been talking for a start about shutting down far fewer processing plants and in trying to protect rural post offices. And we're working on some strong legislation.
That's great. But the Republican argument, of course, is that the Postal Service is the largest unionized employer in the United States. We've got to kill that union off.
Well, I think there's no question that some of these guys are certainly coming from that direction. But here's the story. The average postal employee, many of whom are veterans, by the way, earns a reasonable salary, and they get good benefits. And at a time when our middle class is evaporating and poverty is increasing, to my mind, it is absolutely imperative that we hang on to decent middle-class jobs and not see 100,000 or 200,000 of those jobs lost. So this is very much of an economic issue. Do we decrease the size of the postal force in the middle of recession? Do we make it a slower mail delivery system? Do we have a very negative impact in rural America? You talk to folks from rural America, from small towns, and they will tell you, you know what, the post office is the center of our town. That's where people gather. It's more than just, picking up your mail. So I think we can come up with a program, a business model, which goes a long way to, addressing the real financial problems of the post office, which does exist. There's no question that email and the digital revolution has impacted mail, but we have a lot to learn from countries around the world who have made some significant transitions and understand that the post offices can expand what they are doing. I mean, for example, in rural America, post offices can do more than sell stamps. They can be involved in other government business. They can be delivering, letter carriers can be doing a lot more than they are doing now as well. So a lot to be worked on, but the goal here is to save jobs, maintain a high level of mail delivery service, maintain rural post offices, and that's what we'll be getting at on Monday night.
Yep. And meanwhile, the cherry blossoms here in Washington, D.C. are blooming 2 weeks early.
Well, I'll tell you something, and I think many folks may not appreciate this. After winter, everyone is delighted to see an early spring. But here in Vermont, and I don't know about the rest of the world, we have had in the last week days, I think March 21st, the weather was something like 12 degrees warmer than it had ever been on a March 21st, and that is freaky. It's one thing to say, hey, this is the warmest day on record by 2 degrees, by 1 degree back in 1896 it was this, now it's a degree or two higher. 12 degrees is huge, and that's gone on for a couple of days in places all over New England. And we should be very, very apprehensive about what is happening, because this is just not a nice early spring. This is a significant change in the ecology. It raises questions about what kind of water supply we're going to have if the snow is not there and melting into people's wells, raising questions about bug infestation. This is a big deal. Yeah. And so folks who think that global warming is not real or we should not worry about it, I hope they begin to pay attention to that reality.
Jim in Hamilton, Montana, watching us on Free Speech TV. You're on the air, Senator Sanders.
Hi, Bernie.
Hi, Jim.
A couple comments. As far as the pipeline, why don't we just build a state-of-the-art refinery right there on the Canadian-American border? Mm-hmm. And, it'd be state-of-the-art and wouldn't have to worry about pipelines and leaks and everything. It sounds good to me. We're talking on the rural post offices. One of the problems is that, people who work for the Postal Service make good money. Well, they spend the money in the community. And when we take all those different jobs away, well, there goes a lot of money in the economy, and it hurts everybody from the car dealers to, all the local businesses.
Well, Jim, I think that is exactly the right point. I mean, the tragedy in the economy today is not just that real unemployment, counting those people who have given up looking for work and people who are working part-time, is really close to 15%. But the tragedy is that we have lost many good middle-class jobs. Wages have gone down for the average American worker. Many of them are working longer hours now for lower wages. And you're right, postal jobs are, generally speaking, these guys don't get rich, but they earn a middle-class salary, and they get decent benefits. Those are the kind of jobs we should be creating in America, not cutting. And that's one of the reasons that some of us are fighting very hard to protect those jobs. And your point is well taken. If you have a postal worker who is earning a decent wage, that person is able to send his or her kid to college, go out to a restaurant, buy the products in the community, which creates other jobs. So to my mind, these are the kinds of jobs we've got to grow, not cut.
Brunch with Bernie Hour. Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us. Robert in Joliet, Illinois, listening in on WCPT, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Robert, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Good afternoon, Senator Sanders and Tom. I wanted to ask real quick about your guys' opinion on the anti-protesting bill that President Obama signed a few days ago, and also essentially, in my opinion, martial law. It's not kind of heavy, but the law that he signed where the government could take over, I guess, assets like food and water and so on and so forth.
Tom, are you familiar with what Rob's talking about?
Yeah, there was an expansion of areas that can be defined as secure areas, and my understanding of it is, like if the president goes to Chicago, they could say, okay, this 5-block area is now the equivalent of the White House and has that level of security. Although, other people have been interpreting this as just some incredible government overreach, but it was by and large supported by both Democrats and Republicans. So I've been scratching my head. I haven't had a chance to actually read it.
Honestly, I don't. Look, it goes without saying that the people of this country, from its inception, have First Amendment rights to express their point of view. They have the right of assembly. They have the right to protest. And I have been concerned that while it is absolutely imperative that we protect the security of the President of the United States, which is no small task, by the way, that people have a right to demonstrate and have their voices heard. So I am sympathetic, obviously, to making sure that people have that right.
Michael in Hinsdale, New Hampshire. Michael, you're on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders.
Hello, Bernie. Hello, Tom. How are you guys?
Great.
My comment is on the price of gas compared to the low fuel oil consumption of this amazingly warm winter. It seems obvious to me that the market is being manipulated by somebody on Wall Street in years gone by when fuel oil consumption has been low, the price of gas and fuel oil has dropped. And this year, fuel oil consumption has been very low, and the price is going up.
Now, Michael, I think you make the right point, and that's what I was trying to say a moment ago. The facts are pretty clear that the demand now, as you suggest, is at its lowest point, actually, since 1997 in this country. It has to do, I think, with maybe a warm winter. It has to do with the fact that the automobiles that we're driving, trucks we're driving, have better energy efficiency than used to be the case. There's a recession. People are driving less. But that is the fact. The fact is that demand is down and supply is up. And I think Michael's point is right, is that there are people who are manipulating the system, and I think those are our good friends on Wall Street who helped cause this recession. In the first place through their greed, and now they're back doing it again. And I would say, if I could just pivot off of that point, is that I mean, this takes us to a broader issue, getting back to Wall Street, and that is that we have got to rethink the function of Wall Street, the power of Wall Street. And I found it interesting. I think it was the Dallas Fed. The chairman of the Dallas Fed talked about, this guy's a conservative guy. Mm-hmm. And you know what he said?
He said the banks are too big to fail.
Making up these big banks.
Yeah.
And, this is something that we have introduced legislation to do, and I think the fact that maybe a conservative has come out and said that is the right thing. And his point was that we are right now in a situation where you have more danger of too big to fail than before Dodd-Frank, and I believe that's true. That despite the fact that we went through this horrendous bailout of Wall Street because these banks were so big, 3 out of the 4 largest banks are now bigger than they were before we bailed them out. And it's not only a question of too big to fail and having to bail these guys out because they would bring down half the economy when they fell, but it is also an issue of whether or not you have anything like a competitive free market economy. My conservative friends, my Republican friends talk about how competition is wonderful. Do you really have competition, or the kind of 6 banks are issuing 2/3 of the credit cards in this country and controlling something like 65%, the equivalent of 65% of the assets of the United States of America.
Yeah.
And that is an issue that we do not talk enough about. But I do not believe that you're going to have long-term sustainable growth or a long-term improvement of the horrendous situation of the middle class today unless we deal with that Wall Street issue. And it is popping up right now in terms of speculation and the driving up of oil prices.
John in Madison, Indiana. We have just a minute to the break. John, quick question.
Yeah, my question is for Senator Sanders. Why is our country so slow to progress in things that the rest of the world have already progressed to? As the voice of reason in our government, why is our government so slow to progress? Like, we are always the last one, it seems, to come around.
Well, John, that's a good question. It's not always the case, but too often it is the case. And the answer I would suggest to you has a lot to do with the power of big money in politics and the fact that the big money guys in this country have become increasingly greedy. There has been a conflict between, the private sector and labor, for example, but there was also an understanding that we were one nation and people had to work together. But now these guys at the top could care less about the middle class and working families of this country. If they can make a nickel more by shutting down a plant in this country and moving to China, not a problem. If they can throw off, lay off huge numbers of workers, that's fine. If they can manipulate the system, that's fine. So I would say that your point is that we are the only nation in the industrialized world not to provide health care to all people, far behind the rest of the world in terms of making higher education affordable, behind much of the world in terms of environmental protection. Unfortunately, you're right on those points, John.
We'll be back with more of your calls for Senator Bernie Sanders in our National Town Hall meeting. Brunch with Bernie, here on the Thom Hartmann Program.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
And check out Bernie's website, sanders.senate.gov. You can sign his constitutional amendment to roll back Citizens United there, as well as sign up for his newsletter.
We've got too complicated. It's all way overrated. I like the old and outdated way of life.
34 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to our Brunch with Bernie Hour. Senator Bernie Sanders taking your calls in our National Town Hall meeting. Jonathan in New York City, watching us on Free Speech TV. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi. I want to ask about the possible bringing back of Glass-Steagall with all the banks foreclosing on everybody.
Well, the answer is, Jonathan, I agree with you. In my view, the deregulation of Wall Street and allowing for all kinds of mergers between investor banks and commercial banks and insurance companies was certainly one of the reasons that we had the Wall Street collapse, which led us to the horrendous recession that we're in right now. Glass-Steagall was the Depression-era law which maintained a wall and a separation between those entities, and I think that makes sense. Dodd-Frank took us a little way forward, but went nowhere near enough to provide the kinds of regulation that must take place on Wall Street. As I mentioned earlier, I would go further than Dodd-Frank. I think essentially this economy is never going to be protecting the needs of working families and the middle class, creating the kinds of jobs that we desperately need to pay people a living wage, unless you start breaking up these huge banks now that has such an impact both economically and politically on our country.
Ramona in Los Angeles, you are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hello?
Hello, you're on the air.
Oh, hi, I didn't know I was on the air yet. Hi, Tom. I wanted to ask you and Bernie about the state that has their own state-owned bank.
That's North Dakota.
With Dakota, and also why don't other, Los Angeles is in terrible trouble financially. I was wondering why other states don't do it, and if it could be done.
Well, sure.
One more thing.
Ramona, I think it's a good idea. I think North Dakota deserves a lot of credit for having a bank established. When was that? That's been how many years, Tom? That's been...
It's since 1918, 1919, 1909, right. Something like that.
And my understanding is it works pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
And here you have a situation where they make, my presumption is they invest in their communities, and they help create jobs, and they make a profit, and so forth. The reason, Ramona, that you don't see more of that in this country, I think, is that a state-owned bank would be real competition to some of these large commercial banks. And they don't want to see that type of competition. But I think the concept is a sound one, and I certainly support it.
Walter in Durham, North Carolina. You're on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders.
Hi. I just have a quick question concerning when will someone introduce some type of legislation that will regulate Wall Street in regard to speculation on commodities that people use, such as oil, wheat. That affects all Americans.
The essentials.
Well, Walter, let me give you the good news, is that someone has introduced that legislation, and that's me, and I think we have 6 co-sponsors. And what it says is that the Commodities Future Trading Commission, that's the agency that has responsibility to end excessive speculation, in the oil futures market do what they're supposed to do and use their emergency powers to do it. So that legislation has been introduced. We're trying to get more support, trying to get it introduced in the House as well. As I've said a moment ago, it is absurd that over 80% of the oil futures market is controlled by Wall Street speculators and less than 20% by people who actually use the product. And the function of the speculators is to make a profit, to buy and sell, to drive prices up, sell it when you can, and that's what they're doing. So I think Walter's point is right, but I'm happy to tell him that we have introduced that legislation.
Okay, and Andre in Westchester, New York. Andre, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, Bernie. Hi, Tom. First of all, Bernie, you are my favorite senator. I'll say that right up front. I wanted to make a point about speculation, but first, before that, I want to say a little thing about Keystone, and something that's not really known to most people, in that currently there is a small glut of oil in the Midwest, and based in the middle of the continent, because of the success of the Bakken and the tar sands. Now, the plan behind Keystone was always to bring that oil down to the coast, all right, where there is you have refiners that are equipped to deal with it, but once it's on the coast, suddenly it's going to be exported, all right? And paradoxically, what will happen is the price of oil in the the price of gasoline in the Midwest will go up to match elsewhere. So this is another case of someone taking a project which sounds really nice and misrepresenting it for their own personal gains.
Well, thank you, Andre. I think you're right. This oil is anticipated to be sold to China. There are some studies which suggest that it will actually drive prices of oil up in the Midwest. But to me, equally important to all of that is the fact that this nation must come to grips with the reality that global warming is real, that we've got to break our dependence on fossil fuel, that the alternatives are staring us right in the face. They are out there. The technology is there. We can make huge progress in terms of energy efficiency, both in our homes, in our buildings, and in our transportation system, and we can move rapidly to such sustainable energies as wind, solar, geothermal, biomass, other sustainable energies. The future of the planet is at stake. So your point, Andre, is exactly right, but in addition, it's imperative that we look at the implications for global warming about going into the tar sands.
Jim in San Antonio, Texas. You're on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders.
Hi, my question relates to both Wall Street and the Postal Service. I'm wondering to what extent the Postal Service's problems are contributed to by the presence of junk mail and basically treat them as a subsidized arm of Wall Street, and if there's a plan to do anything about it.
Well, that's a good question, Jim, and I don't know that I know the definitive answer to it. There is some arguments that I have heard is that the Postal Service has not used the kind of flexibility it should in terms of its pricing, i.e. that some of the mailers, the people who are doing advertising mail, are getting a better break than they should. The prices could go up, more revenue could come into the Postal Service. But I think the argument for more flexibility, pricing flexibility for the Post Office, bringing in more revenue, is an important point to be made.
Paula in Carbondale, Illinois. Is this the same Paula who used to call in like 9 years ago when we started the program?
Yes, but I got banned for a while. I guess when you moved to Washington, D.C., your phone system changed.
Okay, well, welcome back, Paula. Question for Bernie?
Carbondale, Illinois, with the post office that's going to be shut down. Yeah, my question was, and you kind of answered it, I don't understand how you can talk about global warming as a bad thing and then talk about the price of oil going up as a bad thing. To me, it's a good thing when the price of oil goes up because then less oil will be burned. They talk about, what about the poor people? Well, they don't seem to be worried about the poor people when it comes to the high housing prices, which they're bound and determined to keep up. Everyone needs a place to live. Not everyone needs a car. So why is it they're trying to keep housing prices up when we have so many homeless? And then they want to keep the oil prices down so that people can sit out, can drive, unnecessarily. I always say...
I hear your point, and I don't know who the they is that you're referring to. I am concerned that in many parts of this country, including the city where I live in Burlington, Vermont, housing prices are very, very high. And working families are spending, 40%, 45% of their limited incomes on decent housing, and that's unacceptable, and we need to build more affordable housing in this country. In terms of the issue of oil prices, yes, I suppose that if you drove the price of oil way, way up, it would have an impact in preventing, in making people drive less, et cetera, et cetera. But I can tell you that in the world that we live in right now, in my state, you got tens of thousands of working people who have to drive to work. There is no option. And if they want a job, that's what they've got to do. They've got to get in their car, and they drive 20, 30, 40, 50 miles to work, and they drive back. And the question is, when you're making $12, $14 an hour, can you afford to pay $4 or $5 for a gallon of gas? And the answer is that you cannot. So the point is, it's not really a contradiction, Paula. Those of us who do understand the terrible threat of global warming understand that we need to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel. How do you do that? Well, you start producing cars that get 50, 60, 80 miles per gallon. You develop public transportation. You move toward solar energy, wind energy to produce the electricity that we need. So there are ways to protect working people without driving the price of oil up, which is just taking money out of the pockets of people who just can't afford to pay $4 or $5 for a gallon.
And the housing price problem, is this a banking problem, or is this?
Well, yeah, it may be. I'm sure everything is related to banking, but I think one of the crises that we face is there is just not enough affordable housing being built in this country, and that has a lot to do with how builders can get affordable capital.
Yeah. And that people's wages are collapsing, and they just can't afford so much anymore.
Well, that's right.
Yeah. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. We'll be back with more of our National Town Hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie, right after this.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
And visit Bernie's website, sanders.senate.gov, for great news, the Bernie Buzz newsletter, and Bernie's constitutional amendment to roll back Citizens United. Welcome back. Reginald in Houston, Texas, watching on Free Speech TV. You're on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders.
Hey, thank you, fellas, for taking care of people's business. I want to talk about the NSA, of one topic and another one. The National Security Agency is building a new large facility, whereas they are going to be housing information, warrantless surveillance, information, collecting and retrieving information, say, for 5 years, and a data storage. Is this like you had that arms appropriation bill that they passed, which had that, I believe, that enemy combatant bill where they can retrieve and assassinate basically anybody abroad and locally here. Isn't America overstepping her boundaries and authority? Because now you have to have they pulling your credit report up to see if you can get a job. They're pulling your criminal background check. They're going to the Facebook checking you. Man, there's freedom of speech is being eroded. So what do you think about that NSA and this overstepping of authority on the surveillance in the NSA?
Well, let me just start off with, you covered a lot of territory there. Am I concerned about the overreaching of government in terms of our private lives? I am. This explosion of technology, and it's not just government, it's, emails and everything else. Government and the private sector are knowing a lot more about you and your buying habits and your medical habits and records and needs than I think many people would appreciate. So is it a problem? It is a huge problem. In terms of, I think you were referring to the bill that recently passed, the Department of Defense authorization bill, which gives the government, federal government, increased power against terrorism to pick people up without due process, incarcerate them without due process. I voted against that bill for precisely that reason. I can't give you a definitive answer on the NSA. I've heard about it. I just don't know enough to give you a definitive answer. But in general, I think your concerns are legitimate, is that new technology has given both the public and private sector just the kinds of knowledge about where we are, where we are in our car, where we are traveling, what's going on in our homes, what we are purchasing, what our health records are. So the concern is legitimate, and the government has been, I think, much too slow. Congress has been much too slow to address that very legitimate concern.
Mac in Edgewood, Maryland. We have just a minute to the break. Mac, a quick one for Bernie.
All righty. How you doing, Bernie?
Good.
I really respect you because I'm a Green and I'm not a Republican or Democrat, but I really respect you and I appreciate what you're trying to do. And I had a question about President Obama and his picking this guy from the Monsanto seed executive on his cabinet. I really don't understand that. And my other question was about this thing you just mentioned, the bill where you can't protest near the president while he speaks, and you can actually go to jail for that.
Well, again, you've raised a couple of issues.
And we have 30 seconds.
Yeah. In my view, President Obama has done some good things. I think history will record the fact that the stimulus package that was passed in the midst of the economic crisis played a very important role in helping to prevent the collapse of our economy. I think that the health care reform bill, which did not go anywhere near as far as it should, is in fact going to help a whole lot of people. I think there's a lot that President Obama has done and should be doing that speaks to a conservativeness in him that concerns me.
Welcome back to the place where smart people get their news, the Thom Hartmann Program. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us, sanders.senate.gov. His website, Mohammed in Chicago, Illinois, listening on Chicago's Progressive Talk. Hey, Mohammed, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
I think it's 5 p.m. on Chicago.
Mohammed? Apparently not. Yes, sir?
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay. Okay, go for it.
Hi, Tom.
Yes?
How are you, sir? And I do have a lot of respect for you. You are a hero of mine. Mr. Sanders, just a comment. Maybe you could answer this in form of a question. I believe in the right wing in this country and the right wing in Israel. They both got together, and because Obama and Netanyahu do not see eye to eye, so they jacked up the price. They threatened to Iran, and that right away, the next day, the price of the oil just went through the roof.
So you think the increasing in price of oil is a conspiracy to hurt the Obama presidency?
Absolutely.
Okay. Bernie?
I have heard that. I don't know. I would get back to the point that I made earlier. I think our friends on Wall Street don't need conspiracy theory to drive the price of oil up. When you control over 80% of the oil futures market and your function there is to make as much profit as you can, when we've seen a significant increase in recent years of the percentage of oil controlled by speculators on the oil futures market, I think that explains a whole lot. So I'm not quite into that conspiracy theory. I think there are reasons why oil prices are going up. I don't think there's some kind of great conspiracy out there.
Soledad in Austin, Texas. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yes, I wanted to ask him, or actually make a statement about health care. I recently went to the physician, and when I got to the front desk, they says, "What is your deductible?" I called my insurance company, and they says, "You have to pay $1,900 out of your pocket first before you actually meet the deductible." So this is why I think that the health care debate is an interesting thing. I mean, the average person can't afford $1,900 to pay that in order before they start to do their deductibles. And fortunately, thankfully, I could do that, but not the average citizen can do that. And the last thing I was going to say is everything continues to increase. However, people's wages are flatlined. So I don't understand.
So that makes a very good point, and it's a point that should be made more often. And that is, in the country, our country today, we have 50 million people who have zero insurance, no insurance at all. But what we also have are many, many millions of people who are in exactly the same position as Soledad is, and that is with very high deductibles and high co-payments. And those people, while they ostensibly have insurance, that insurance isn't worth a hell of a lot if you can't afford the deductible. And one of the things that we should be forever ashamed about is that in America today, about 45,000 people die every single year, Tom, because they don't go to a doctor when they should. And one of the reasons is they just cannot afford to pay that initial bill. It may well be a case of high deductibles. It may be a case of no insurance whatsoever. But clearly, we have a dysfunctional healthcare system. Will the healthcare reform bill passed a couple of years ago improve the situation? It will. Does it go as far as it should? No, it does not. The United States, in my view, and I hope the state of Vermont will be moving in that direction, should join the rest of the industrialized world and move towards something like a Medicare for all single-payer program, which guarantees health care to all of our people. And when you do that, by the way, you also address the problem of why it is that we end up spending almost twice as much per person on health care as any other nation. It's funny, a couple of months ago, Tom, I had a bunch of kids from the UK, from the United Kingdom, in my office, and I asked them about health care in the UK. They don't even have a card. They walk into the doctor's office, they say, "Hi, I'm Mary Smith." The nurse checks off the name, they go in, they see the doctor, and they leave. That's it. That's it. And that's one of the reasons why their health care costs are a fraction of what ours are, because they don't have the whole bureaucracy of billing and spending, 25, 30% of every healthcare dollar on administration, on advertising, and all that other stuff. So, in my view, a caller earlier in this program asked, why is it that we're so far behind many other countries in so many areas? Well, healthcare certainly is one of those areas. It has everything to do with the power of the private insurance companies, the drug companies, but we have got to make sure that healthcare becomes a right of all people, that we don't end up continuing to pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, for health care in general. We can do a heck of a lot better. I hope the state of Vermont will lead the nation toward a single-payer program.
Wendy in Bethel, New York. You're on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders. We've got about a minute and 3/4 until the end of the hour.
Okay, I'll try to be quick. Thank you, gentlemen. I have been kind of forced into a bad situation financially. We haven't had any income, and I have a 401k that I've been slowly drawing down. There are two potential fixes I can think of. One is, to introduce legislation to do either one or both. To eliminate the 10% penalty would be really helpful, but also there's a provision that you can return the money into the account, I think once, but it has to be within 60 days. And if that were extended, either indefinitely or for a year, that way if we...
Okay. Wendy, we just have 40 seconds left. Let's get Bernie's thoughts on this, okay?
Wendy is raising an issue that we have heard previously on the show, Tom. In hard economic times, when a lot of people are not employed and their income is way down, they want to go do their 401ks. They want to be able to do that in a much easier way than they can do it now and without penalties. And I think Wendy's point is a good point. It is something that Congress should work on.
Is there any effort in Congress to do this?
There is some discussion, yes, there is.
And where will that come from?
Well, it will come from people who are listening to the problems that Wendy and many other people have. In hard times, if people are sitting on money that they can't access, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Okay. Final thoughts for the week? Oh, I'm sorry, Bernie. We just ran out of time.
Okay.
I know your final thought. Despair is not an option, right?
That's the final thought.
Okay. Senator Sanders, thank you so much for being with us.